Okay, let's talk about our topic for today then. So our topic being
Yep.
web developer projects that will get you hired.
Okay. Now you would here. Let me preface this. You would think that this would be like really common advice, but we get so much
Yeah.
pushback on this about this because of I think tech Twitter and like YouTube content creators and these kind of things. And so like here's when I preface my advice here is like number one, here's what I do on a daily basis. I have a consulting company that we're out there and we got people working and talk to companies and try to find new work. That involves me pitching things to people. So I do this a lot, so I pitch things a lot. The other side of the business is, hey, you know what we're trying to do? We're trying to actually find engineering roles for our Coder Foundry graduates. If you're in the in-person program, we have a dedicated staff person that goes out and says, let's find you a job. So when people get turned down, we find out why.
We know exactly
When
why.
people
Yeah.
win, we find out why. And we know what works, what doesn't work. I can tell you that when I show these projects to hiring managers, so like a company calls in, for example, company ABC calls in the Coder Foundry and they're like, hey, we're interested in your graduates. We want to know like what about your program. So I'll be on talking to the CEO or whatever and pitching the program to them. And then I'll say, well, let me show you some of the projects from students so you can see what a person can actually do. And when I show these projects, specifically the bug tracker project, which we're going to talk about, we're famous for, I always get the same response. Wow. And then they'll say, how long did it take to build? And I'll say 3 weeks. And they're like, that's different. Okay. I'm interested. Show me some grad stuff like, and then that it sells it. So like when I say that projects that get you hired, these projects get me hired because you know what I'm doing? I'm selling this Coder Foundry student into a company and I'm pitching it just like everyone else does. So when you see another creator that says this doesn't work, I'm like, you're not trying. You're not doing this as a living. You make content.
Right.
We make, I explained it to someone the other day, like that was coming in the program. He says, what makes you a YouTuber? I said, I'm not a YouTuber. I am a coder that happens to be on YouTube. I happen to be on YouTube.
Right.
But I'm not a YouTuber because like, what I do on the daily is trying to find either people jobs or trying to get my consultants hired. And that involves pitching, selling. And I think we need to approach getting a tech job in traditional sales and marketing approaches. And this is the one key to it that we know 100% works. Like we see it working,
Yep.
And I promise you, if we didn't build these, we'll stop building these when people stop responding to them. They're like, it's kind of lame. I don't know. Anyone can do that.
Which is
like,
some of the pushback we get is like, well, everybody's building a bug tracker. Don't fool yourself.
They're not.
They are not. They are
No.
not. You're in a tiny little bubble of people that are like, you're here watching this right now and we're telling you about this stuff. And it's like, well, everybody here is going to be doing it. It's like, well, they're not to start off with. And plus, outside of this little bubble, nobody's doing anything like this. You know how we know?
Right.
Because we see a lot of other people's portfolios too, and we know what they put on their portfolios, and it isn't this.
Right. And I see people graduating a boot camp coming to Coder Foundry to take yet another boot camp. And I'll ask them, like, what did you build there? What did you do? What did you do? And I see why they come to us. I mean, like, so these go, let's talk about like, instead of like, let's name check the projects first. We're going to talk about the 3 that we build in person. Okay.
Yep.
In person currently right now in this version of the cohorts. Now I will tell you that my cohorts in person does change.
Yeah.
So
we've changed them up.
3 months from now, I may have a different project. Okay. But I will tell you, they all follow the same plan. And so, but like let's talk about the plan first, or should we name check them first? And let's give you value first.
Well, name check them. Yeah, name check them.
Yeah. So like currently right now in the cohort, we're building 3 major .NET projects. Okay. They have, the first one is Contact Pro, which you can build in the self-paced course, just came out in the .NET 6 version. We build a blog, and then we build a bug tracker. Those are the 3 projects we build. Now,
okay. So tell me why. So tell me why we. Sorry, so I was just gonna say. So tell me why we do each one of them. Then tell me why we do Contact Pro.
Okay, they all 3 follow the same archetype, which is we think a great project should be easily identifiable, like what it's supposed to do. Like just giving the person the name, they can say, oh, I know what that project does. So a blog, you know what a blog does. You know what a bug tracker does, and then you know what a contact pro is, or an address book or something like that. Right. You should know what those are. Now, for you, the people watching this, you may not know exactly what a bug tracker is at this point, and you're like new to coding, you're new to this, you don't really know the industry, and you're like, well, I don't know what that is. But what we're saying is the person that needs to know what this is the hiring manager. Right. I can guarantee you, every hiring manager that you talk to, and these are people in the technical space building software for a living, either has and definitely knows what a bug tracker, issue tracking, defect tracking software is. They absolutely know one. They're either buying it from Jira, or they built it in-house, or they're using some other third party they bought. I can guarantee that pretty much every HR person, every person at any company will know what a blog is. They know what a blog is. They know intuitively what that is. And then if you show an address book, everyone is using an address book at some point in time, either on their calendar and Outlook or on their phone. They know what that is.
The basic
collection
idea
of contacts of people I know. Yeah, they got the basic idea of what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
And because of that, when that person looks at it, they can tell if it's good or not right off the bat. Oh, that's a cool blog. Oh, that's a neat bug tracker. Oh, that's a cool contact pro. Oh, I like that feature you added there. I see that. So we don't have to immediately tell them what the project needs to do. So like,
right.
In other words, our elevator pitch isn't about the project.
Yeah.
It's about showing them what we can do. And so like when I pitch Coder Foundry to prospective companies and I show these projects, it moves the needle. I promise you. They're like, we don't see that from other boot camps or other schools or other people in this area. And like, we don't see that. Like, okay, great. I'm glad you don't see it, because we build these projects.
Right.
Yeah. But the reason they can make that judgment call is because they know what it's supposed to do. So here's your first rule of thumb. If you're going to build a project, it has to be recognizable to the point where they instantly know what it is. They
don't need a description, right? They don't need an elevator pitch for like the product. They know what the product's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Straight out of the gate.
Yeah. And why this matters, like why does this matter, for that kind of stuff, So it's funny because of my age. I'm not like ancient, but when I interview people in their 20s, they always try to tell me about their individual projects, And so he says, and I remember I was talking to a guy coming into Coder Foundry last week, and he goes, Tinder, right? You know what Tinder is, right? You probably don't. So let me explain to you what Tinder is. And I said, let me stop you right there. If you have to explain it to me, it's a bad project.
Right.
Like, I'm just telling you right now, also if you're taking, if you're trying to justify the domain that you're in, it's a bad project. So like when people say, well, I know it's on Pokemon, but I did these cool things. Let me stop you right there. If you have to apologize for the domain, or you think that
right, that's a problem.
It's a bad project. So the other thing that we feel like makes a bad project is if you use things like, I know we're always picking on the Pokemon API. It's easy to do. We've all come up, and if you're like 30 or 40, you played Pokemon as a kid. I get it. I totally get it. And probably the hiring manager's probably played Pokemon. Probably has. But it is not a business-focused app. Therefore, they can put you in point and light. Now, what if they hate games, or they hate this? They think it's a waste of time and it doesn't really solve any problems, or they don't understand Pokemon, and those kind of things. Then it can make it reflects onto you as a developer. In other words, the project is childish, it's dumb, it's stupid. Therefore, the coder is childish, dumb, and stupid. So it gets projected upon you. You're not a serious person. And so what I've always said is, when we look at projects, we look at our portfolio, and we look at interviewing, the number one goal of all of these things is to get a job. So you have to build things that will get you a job. And so that's when we say, when you see, hey, build your passion project. We see so many boot camps, so many self-paced courses, so many online courses. The capstone project is just something that you choose, that you build with the stack that you want. And people go, well, that's the way you should do it. And I'm like, well, no, that's because you didn't want to teach a bug tracker. You didn't want to.
Well, the reason that they often say that is because, if you don't,
it's hard
you'll get,
to build these things.
Because they often say, like, build your passion project because you need to keep, like, momentum going. You need to be passionate about it because that's the reason you need to do it. You need to be interested in the subject because if you don't, you'll just fall off the wagon and you won't learn this. That's the pushback they give.
Yeah.
Why you should build
And I'm
your
saying if you don't like the code, then maybe this career isn't for you. The coding is the fun part, in my opinion. Like, and it is a lot of fun to build something, make it work, and show it. And like, oh, that's kind of cool. It doesn't matter if it's contacts, tickets, or blogs, or Pokemon. They do the same kind of thing. They show information on the page, but the domain that it operates in paints you in a different light. You're seen as a more serious developer. You can do more complex things. You know, the other problem I have with some of the just purely API focused projects is they don't do a whole lot. Even when I see a Pokemon project and I want to delve into it, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know,
we've had
really
pushback
hard.
on that before too, as well, about like, well, there are some good Pokemon apps. Like, okay, we're not saying they're all bad. The odd one that is good. I've seen some that have been okay. But again, the topic is what we're talking about, not necessarily the app itself.
Yeah.
But I would agree, most of the time, all they do is they take the information displayed on the screen some way. They don't do anything else with it, because that's kind of like where the limitations... And unfortunately, the Pokemon thing is kind of boring when it comes to that. The information that it gives you back is kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't interest me, so it's kind of boring. I think that's... I don't know, I think that's boring, but...
Yeah, so then you can do the same thing with magic cards and all these kind of game focused things. You know, it just doesn't move the needle when you're talking to a hiring manager. We build business apps here. I need to know if you can do this.
It's kind of interesting. I'm thinking about, let's say, right, you're like, oh, build your passion project. But let's say that, like, it's not even a passion project. I'm thinking, like, let's say that I'm really into playing the guitar, right? And I want to build, like, a guitar sales page, right? Yeah. That's what I'm really into. Like, I want to build like a Samash or a musician's friend or something. I'm going to clone one of those. So I'm going to make a guitar sales page of some kind because my passion is guitars. It's just an inventory management system. It's a sales page. It doesn't matter whether you're selling widgets or guitars. My passion is guitars, everybody. But then people might project that guitar thing and put it, or let's say it's Pokemon cards selling. It's the same page. Ultimately, from a technology standpoint, it's going to be the same thing, whether you're selling a guitar or a Pokemon thing or a widget. It doesn't really matter. You're going to get probably better success and more recognition through selling something or having a fictitious thing around, like, I don't know, anything that could be professional, computers or something that could be like less. Yeah. I don't know. It's less. They can't project that onto you then.
Right. Exactly. I think that's what we need to do. So it must solve like a business problem. And so like a lot of the business problems that we see in today's world are like workflow issues, inventory management issues, you know. And so even a bug tracker is an inventory. Like I've got defects that I got to manage, and I work them through a process of open, closed, you know, published. You know, that's some simple thing. Blogs, the same thing. I've got a piece of content that I want to create. And then I put it through maybe an approval process, and it goes to, you know, edited, published, you know, that kind of stuff, or just written and published. So all of those kind of things happen. You know, an address book's the same way. We have pictures of people, and in our Contact Pro, we take it one step further. We categorize them into categories, and then you can email the entire category. So you could have your fantasy football team league, and you could email stuff from here. You could have your, I don't know, you know, weekly bowling night, you know, and so these people are in your bowling list, and then you email them out. So all of those things make sense to people when you're interviewing. So they got to solve a business problem. The number one goal, it has to solve some kind of business problem. And if you don't know what to build, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he says he didn't know what to build, and I was like, build an address book, because it's easier to do, solves a business problem, it's pretty easy, and then move on to a blog. And then finally build something really cool, which we think Bug Tracker is your tracker, those kind of things. So those are the type things, but let's go through the features that we think needs to happen. Now, our advice, Kevin, comes from, I want you to get a web development job because it's still the most in-demand job out there. So if you're going to data science, you're watching this, you're going to data science, this still applies, that you just got to change the project because you got to do a data science type thing. You know?
The reasoning still applies.
If you're going for game development, you got to build a game of some sort. And people think, well, like I got to build and ship a game? Yes.
Yeah.
I think you do. Like if you want to work at Bungie or you want to work at the very top end of this industry, you better have built some kind of game at this point. You know, like I don't know what you build, but like something that you can play and try to get it pushed to Steam or whatever, at least that they can see. Maybe it's released on the web or whatever it is.
Because again, imagine going into that interview and like you have something published against the person who doesn't. You're gonna win.
You're gonna win.
You're taking the initiative. You have something that's out there that's like it doesn't matter how. I mean, just having it alone is going to be a win over somebody that doesn't, even if it's not a fully fleshed out like AAA title, which it won't be. But you know, your little game with a one good mechanic and good graphics or whatever is going to be enough to be like, oh, okay, I see that.
This guy is interested in what we do, and he can do what we want to do, you know, and maybe not at the level that we want, but that's why we're hiring you in. We got a team. The other thing too is like if you're doing like embedded development, you know, so if you're going to go for an embedded job, you should have a Raspberry Pi in your pocket that does something. I mean, like turns on a light, something. You know, I mean, like you should have that. Where I wrote this in C++ or Arduino, you know, I have an Arduino board. You should have an example of how you can win that. So let's talk about in web development now, because that's what we are. You know, we're knowledgeable in this space. We're experts in this space, so we know kind of what it takes to get a job. So build a business-focused project. Now, a business-focused project has a couple of really key features. Number one, it needs to work on a database. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, "Hey, I'm not getting past any interviews." He's like, I get my LinkedIn profile gets me to the interview, and then I never get past that. Why? And you look at his portfolio, and he doesn't have any projects on it. And then you look, he says, "Well, my GitHub has projects," and I'm like, "What do they look like?" And he goes, "Well, they're just personal and they're jacked up." But like, you know, and I'm like, this is why you're losing. This is why you're losing, because they look at your stuff and it's not polished, it's not finished, it's not complete, and it's kind of in the super junior role. Now, what I see out there in the marketplace is people say no one hires juniors. And then you see YouTube creators pick up on this and they go like, they want to like rail at the industry and say they're not hiring juniors. And I'm thinking, well, you don't know what a junior needs to know as a creator. I think a lot of them don't know. And then like, so the level is here, somewhere up in here. And I'm going to tell you what you need to know to do to get a full stack junior dev job. This is what you need to know. It's not, I took a Udemy course and I learned HTML for 5 days and now I should get a software job. It's a lot more complex than that. So you got to know more. Now, can you get HTML developer jobs? Yes. But it's a small fraction of the marketplace. And we're going after the large marketplace, which is full stack web development. I think that is where most of the jobs are, and they do hire juniors, except your definition of a junior from some creators is different than what the employers are expecting. And a lot of people want to rail against it. Well, I got to know all this stuff. Like, yeah, you do. So at Foundry, we're like, what is necessary is up here. And that's what we teach, not what's easiest. So you can't take the easiest road. You got to build things. So here's the things that you need to know. You need to know how to secure a website. Like, can it log in? Can I apply that login to a role? So for example, if you have a blog login, that login could come in and say, okay, I can author blog articles, or the other login I could leave comments. So I've registered with the site. I can't make blog articles, but I can comment. Two different roles. And you have to be authenticated or logged in for it to work.
There's also something important about that too. There's also something important about it. It has to make sense to be logged in. So if you've got a meme generator and you have a login page, that's silly. It makes no sense. It's just having it for the senseless purpose of having it means nothing. It's got to make sense in context of the app. So like there has to be, so authentication, authorization, security is the other thing. Second, it's got to hit a database. Like, you know, you've got to hit some kind of database. Postgres, MySQL, Mongo. I don't care what the story is behind it. It's got to be able to store data so that the next time person comes in, they can see the stuff that they changed. They can see the ticket they created. They can see the blog article they made, the comment they made. Those types of things, those things are stored in the back end. That's what we typically call back end, is the database that stores the values, that maintains state between, you know, when I visits to the website. So that's what it's got to do. So the
middleware to this, the middle road is this, oh, I'm just going to use local storage for that. And I'm like,
ask about that.
You can. We do it a lot. It's simple. We do it to introduce the concept of state, but it's not a database. It's
and it only works in that instance on that machine, right?
Yes,
that's the caveat.
Yeah. So, and it's not a database, you know, so like you can run into issues with it.
Yep. It's a good middle ground, isn't it, to teach the concepts behind like storing something, but it's not a long-term solution.
It's not a long-term solution. So it's got to have a database. It's got to have security. The third part of this is once you build your application, it must solve a business problem. And we've given you 3: address book, a blog, and a bug tracker. It must solve a business problem. And then it must look good. You got to put a template on it if you don't know how to design it, and it's got to look good, and it needs to be branded. So if you have a nice branded landing page for your application that goes through the features in the landing page, and then it has a demo login, and they can just click on it, one click, and go there and use the app, and it has its own brand, it's a winner. And what
about the I'm just interested in a back end job, I don't like front end? What about that?
You put a template on it. You have to know enough to be able to do the front end anyway. You have to know something about it. Like, you know, so the view part of this is you have to be able to lay out a page. I mean, you just have to be able to do that, you know? So maybe you're not a designer. That's great. That's why we say, go to ThemeForest, buy a template and stick it on there, you know, and to this day, while we build some things from scratch, we build our portfolios from scratch inside the cohort, from like the head tag all the way down. Once we get to blog and bug tracker, we're using templates. Right? I'm saying, hey, here's 8 that we like. Use one of these 8, stick it on there, change the colors, make it look great, you know. And then we even have designers come through the course that use the template and then they modify it. But like for the most part, I think it needs to look fantastic to get over the hump of you look way too junior to do this job. When it looks ill-conceived, not laid out well, it doesn't matter what's on the back end.
It doesn't. It could be the best written code ever, couldn't it? But it's like, it's not going to matter.
It's not going to matter. Like you can't even put the right button on the page. You can't lay the form out, you know, like those kinds of things. That's why you need to know something about Bootstrap or Tailwind. You need to know something about HTML. You need to know something about JavaScript, and you need to know a lot about the back end to do a full stack job. You know, how do we communicate to the back end? So in our world, it is ASP.NET and C#, but it could be, you know, Java Spring. It could be Node.js with JavaScript. The back end could be PHP. Could be a lot of things that you use it with, but the end result needs to look professional on the front end, and then they'll hire you as a professional. So I think the bar for juniors isn't so much into they're only hiring people with 5 years experience. It's that what can you do once you get here?
Right. It's not how long you've been doing it. It's like what can you do?
What can you do?
They don't care how long you've been doing it.
We've
seen people. We've definitely seen people that have been in this industry for a few years who get jumped by people who I've been doing it for 6 months, because time doesn't matter. It's about commitment and what you make. I've seen people get stagnant. They just do the same thing, and then it's just like they learn one thing and never learn the next. It's like you're out of date now. You're 2 years in, and it's like you've learned the one thing. This guy who started 6 months ago, he now has more experience than you. It's not time. It's just he's built more things than you have. Like you got to. That's what it's about.
You got to keep building things and constantly developing and building things. And I think that's the other thing that people think. They go through the learning process and they think they can quit learning and just hand me my job, and or my boot camp didn't teach me this, therefore I can't get this job. I'm like, no, you have to learn the next thing. The boot camp or the self-paced learning course that you took or the college course that you took is going to prepare you to give you a set of knowledge that you come out with. Hopefully that set of knowledge is good enough to get you a job. But let's say it's not. Let's say all those learning options were bad. Your job is to learn more new things, because even as a senior, man, I mean, even as me, we're learning new things. I'm learning new things right now. There's a lot of things I'm trying to figure out. Like, you know, so like that's experimentation, reading documentation, building things, trying to understand what the next thing is, what the next thing I have to learn is. And that's the job. So we need to build this. The other pushback we get from this is like, well, if I could build a bug tracker, I would just start my own company.
Right.
Okay.
Please
do
do.
it.
Exactly. Please.
But there's way more to it than just building the app, though. Like, you know, it's a lot harder.
Oh,
so the other pushback we get that I think is really odd is that they somehow equate me having to do this amount of effort to build my portfolio is somehow me giving free work away.
Yeah,
and it's like,
why should I do all that amount of stuff for free? Is what we get.
Just for a job at some company that I don't like, you know, like so. I want you to understand where this advice resonates from. And so, like, I have actually went and talked to people to find out, like, what do you think about this? And I realized they're not in the industry. So there's a lot of people that walk around and tech Twitter. They have YouTube channels. They have all this kind of stuff. They're not in the industry. They're just content creators. And so their job is to tell you all the bad stuff about the industry. And that's what gets the likes, the views, and the clicks and everything. The positive stuff, like, hey, this is what you should do, doesn't get allocated as much as the negative stuff does. But they're giving you bad advice. They're saying you shouldn't invest all that time into your portfolio because you're just giving it away to the man, you know, or some kind of like this judgment on, like, you know. And what I've always said is, you're working for you. The client is you. You're the client. You're investing in your things. And it's the same thing when you get a coding challenge from in a hiring thing. You're like, I had to spend 4 days on that. Why would I spend 4 days on something and I can't even guarantee to get a job? I'm like, well, the 4 days is for you to learn how to build.
You didn't learn anything in that 4 days. You did something wrong.
Like, what are you doing? And so it's not about that company. Like, you know, like it's about you learning. Now, hopefully you'll spend the 4 days, you'll impress them, you'll wow them, and you'll get a job. But what I've always told people, like, if you get a coding challenge and you don't get it, dude, finish that thing out, polish it off, put a template on it, and stick it right on your portfolio. There's nothing secret about these coding challenges. You know, like, there's no, like, you know, there's no, especially, they're not signing you to an NDA or anything like that. So, like, hey, man, publish the thing. Say, here's what I built. I built a recipe book. I've seen recipe book challenges coming out lately. I built one. You know, hey, look at me. I built a recipe book. And so then the next time you get asked, you're like, hey, just look at the one I've already built. And let me walk you through the code here.
Right. And there you go. Now you're demoing.
Now you're demoing, which is, these things that I'm talking about are built to demo. They're not built to be hidden behind a GitHub profile that someone has to clone down and grab and try to work out all the dependencies and get it working. They're just not going to ever do that. What you need is published projects on Heroku. We're using Railway now, or something like that, that someone can just click on and view and look at and demo it. Or you demo it to them during an interview. And that's really what a winning project is it demoable? So let's go back to my original one. What makes a bad project is when you demo, I'm going to say this again. If you have to apologize or explain the domain to the hiring manager, it is a bad project. The project isn't going to get you hired. And all I'm saying is, these are sales artifacts to get you hired. That's all it's for. It doesn't serve any other purpose than that. And so, like, a lot of people say, well, the other pushback we get, well, why would I want to view your janky bug tracker that has no user on it? If it doesn't have 10,000 users on it.
Exactly.
I've seen this literal comment as a hiring manager, I don't care about your project. I'm like, well, if I had 10,000 users, I wouldn't be applying for the job. I mean, like,
we've had somebody compare it. We've had somebody compare it to Jira. Like, why would I want to use your bug tracker? I have Jira. That's not the point. It went right here, man. You didn't get why we have it, do you? You're not understanding what the point of building this thing is. It's not to compete with Jira in the market. It's to show your skills. It's to show what you can do in an interview. That's it. Yeah, it's your own version of that. People get confused sometimes. They really do.
They think it has to have
some kind of marketable, like, you're gonna have to sell it somewhere.
Monetizable, and I got users, you know. And so, like, imagine you're interviewing for Google, and you're like, hey, I want to be a Google senior engineer here. And they're like, okay, let me show you some stuff I built. I built this bug tracker. It's got 10 million users on it. I'm making about $40 million a year on it. So, but I still want to be a senior engineer.
They're going to say, why do you want to work here?
You don't want to work here. Like, you've got a business. Like, what are you doing? So, like, these things are show you to get a job. That's what we're trying to do, is get you a job that you can, and you use these as sales artifacts to be able to demo things. The other benefit to this is building these complex projects is Every interview question that you could ever get answered is answered in these projects. And if you can relate that question to a piece of concrete code that you've written, I promise you're going to win more interviews. And you can reduce the amount of code trivia you got by just having a demo artifact. You may eliminate it entirely by having a demo artifact, by just saying, hey, let's look at my projects first.
Yep.
You know, and you can dictate to what they're going to ask you based on what you're showing them. How did you do that? How'd you do that? How'd you handle the database connection? How does that work? You know, those kind of things. We had a young lady that showed ASP.NET identity, just identity coming out of the box, which we think from Coder Foundry's perspective, from C# developers, like, oh, that's a basic feature. These people that she interviewed with had rolled their own identity security that had lots of problems. They didn't know it existed. And so now, not only are you demoing it, now you're teaching it. That gets you hired.
Can you imagine going for an interview and teaching the person interviewing you something?
Like how
if you don't get that job,
you're looking at it like this, looking at your profile, it's like there's like, wow, okay, like I didn't know that you could do that. Like that's cool. You're getting hired.
Yeah.
And that's happened to a lot of students, junior, senior, whatever. If you can teach them something during the interview, you're going to win. The only way you're going to do that is show them something you built. It's kind of cool.
That's it.
All right,
That's it. And okay, just to we have some
Yeah.
stuff, but just to kind of segue into like this part too, we actually have a course on this too. Just because you're actually talking about these questions, it just made me think. But we do have the course that I've been just fixing over the last couple of days. But we have an interview prep course that actually deals with exactly this and shows you exactly. If I show you here, the interview prep course is part of our subscription, where it shows you, like if I just take this one for instance, takes a question like what is inheritance, and here's Antonio giving an awesome description of it in video format. Then we also have an answer and an example. So we talk about, if we go here, look, I open this little pop-up here, we have these GIFs where it shows you the actual code. So you can see like, hey, this is the code to talk about interface definition. And we have a bunch of these. We have 100 and something of these. There's a lot in this course that talks about these. 100 and, I think it's 2 of those on, so about 130 questions in here that talk about these with demos, some of them, and then at least the code for all of them. It shows you exactly where you can talk about the code in at least our core projects anyway. But you should have this for yours as well. You should be able to do this.
And so like what you can do is you can take your projects. Let's say you just want the interview from us and you're like, oh, I'm gonna watch that, okay? And let's say you wrote some stuff in Java. Okay, these things will apply to Java for the most part. And then you can replace our code with your code and say, okay, for unboxing and unboxing, I've done that. I mean, I didn't know that, you know? So like, so I know what an interface is. Okay, I've done that. And so show me where you did it. For example, show me where you did it. And we go through how to do that. So anyway, so I think that's not to pitch our course all the time, but like, that's what we're talking about is turn interview questions into demos. And people think that I'm crazy, that it doesn't happen in the real world. And what I've interviewed enough people to know that the really good interviewers that we meet in life, and this could be your favorite content creator, doesn't know that this is what they do instinctively.
Right.
They just do it by default and they don't understand what they've done. And so when you ask them a question, they explain it with a concrete example. That's just what they do. That's how they answer it. There are the other half of us, like when you're answered a question, we're trying to figure out what is the definition of MVC, and we answer it academically. The quicker you can go from academic answers to concrete answers, things you built, you win more interviews. There are tons of guys, I've watched them interview, man. Like you ask them a question, what's MVC? And you're like, well, I was using that last week, and boom, they go talk about the project that they're building, you know, like immediately. And you get the feeling like, oh, they know what they're talking about. They answer the question, but they're building stuff actively and they knew all about it. My common technique of interviewing software developers is this. Tell me what you're building, and I can tell within like 20 minutes if you're actually working on that software code base or not.
Yeah,
I can tell.
You can't fake it. This is not something you can fake.
You cannot fake it. Like I can tell immediately because I can ask them very specific questions like, well, tell me about that thing. Like, tell me about what that works. And like, do you know anything about the code base at all? You know, and so like, and then you can tell right away, you can, people that memorize interview questions lose. And this is why the hiring process is so difficult, because people are asking tech trivia questions, which I think are bad. I mean, I think the questions are bad. I don't think they show any knowledge of understanding of how to make things work, you should look at code to see if what they can do. But if you do, the person that relates those to concrete code always wins. They always do. The ones that just memorize the academic answers, they struggle. You know, because they can't tell if they've worked on anything or not. They know the answer sort of, but like, tell me about something.
Right,
so that's what these projects do. That's what makes a great project, one that you can demo, one that you don't have to explain what it is. So if it takes you 20 minutes to explain to them why you need a Tinder-like app to find hikers, you just lose them, man. Like you've lost. I mean, like, you know, you're not pitching it to get investment. You're trying to get a job. So there's two different kinds of pitches. So like, you know, when you pitch a product to get investment, yeah, you need to tell them what the domain is and how it operates and what's the market capitalization of this and that. But this is not that. They need to know that like instantly. Okay, you got your address book. Oh, send me what you did. Oh, you got a recipe book. Okay, I know what a recipe is.
Right.
That's what they're thinking.
Right. They're thinking about now, like, what features of a recipe book do you have? Not what the recipe book is.
And they know what a good one is. They know what it is. Instinctively, they know, like, oh, that's a crappy address book. That's kind of lame. I mean, you know, it's not even lined up. You know, it's like, it's terrible. My Samsung does better than that. I mean, like, so like, that's what they're thinking. Or they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Oh, I like what you did there. That's neat. Tell me how you handled this. And boom, you win.
Yep.
The more people would listen to me, the more people would win interviews.
Yeah, but I think the more you're teaching about the features of your app versus the app itself, what the app's supposed to do, you're talking about features, not about its basic usage. That's when you're gonna win. Yeah,
and I'm not hitting on another creator. There's a famous creator out there, Colt Steele, that makes a great course. It's Yelp Camp. But Yelp Camp, in my opinion, and I'm sorry, Colt, it's a great course. The UI comes back really bad, so it's not good enough to warrant as an interview. Now, what could you do? You could learn everything you could from that course and then put a front end on it and bam, you got a winner. Yeah. Camping and registration and all that kind of stuff for America's parks, it's kind of cool. I mean, it could work, as people went camping before. It's a pretty popular domain. I wouldn't say it's world famous. I wouldn't say it's universal, but like for the most part, people can understand like how that could work. But if it looks like junk, it doesn't matter what's behind it. It doesn't matter that, it needs to look fantastic. It needs to look great.
Definitely. Okay, we're going to do some questions. I've got a bunch of questions and comments already queued up here too. But before we do that, actually, I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to do a discount on the self-paced course. So
okay, cool. Build that Contact Pro, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You can build the Contact Pro and build the apps that we've talked about. You don't have to go to our course to build these things. We want to give as much as we can. Like we're not, we kind of tell you as much as we can about them without having to go to the course to do it. But in the course, obviously, we tell you how to build them as well in .NET. So you can get basically.
So if you want to learn .NET.
Exactly. So if you want to learn .NET, you can go to learn.codefoundry.com. The description has the link down there with the link to the discount. So what we normally have our normal thing is $99 a month. Is kind of our full price. We have a couple of discount prices. One if you pay semi-annually, you get it for $70 a month, and then one if you pay annually, you get it for $49.50 a month. So that's kind of our standard pricing is $49.50 a month when paid annually. This one though, we were talking about this morning. We literally just set up this code this morning. It's going to run until September 30th. So this one, you'll get it for $30 a month. So it's a good.
If you pay annually,
it's a good chunk off. If you pay annually, $30 a month paid annually. So it's a good chunk off. That link is in the description below. It'll run through September 30th while we're in this like little weird holiday lull.
Yeah.
When nothing's exciting. So yeah, it's the cheapest when we launched it that we've ever done it. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool.
Go
join the thousands on Discord and join the thousands in the course, and that would be something that you could do, and then learn how to code. People are getting jobs from this because I'm telling you guys, I don't know how much more I can tell you. Like, if you have a great project, it does help in the interview process. Now, I want to say this too. I guess we can go back this, Kevin. One thing you can show the
pricing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You can just show the courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
While you're doing it, while you're showing that stuff, and they can watch on the screen, you're listening to me. Like, the one thing that I do see a lot is, what about FANG companies? Like, what about FANG? And so FANG, if you know what a FANG is, that stands for Facebook, Amazon, it's Google, for some reason it's Netflix, and it's not Microsoft. You know, Microsoft's like
Apple.
bigger than all of them. Apple, you know, so. But let's say that you want to work at a FANG company, and you're saying, well, they don't want to demo a project. They have an absolute interview process. I know this is true for Amazon. Amazon has an interview process that they go through. So, but I want you to think about this. Let's say that you've applied to 10 jobs. Only one of those is probably going to be a FANG. Even though FANG hires lots of people, they can only hire you once, unless you're doing that whole, like, I got 2 jobs, you know, shenanigans, and, you know, but like, yes. But 90% of your interview will be for medium to large size companies or small companies that don't have this like leak code style interview question. And this is what we're targeting, man. I'm telling you, demoing in an interview will win you a role. It absolutely will. They don't expect you to have one, number one. Number two, when you show them something like a bug tracker, they're going to like, wow, okay, that's cool. That's what I need to have. So that's, and even a Contact Pro, even the one that we built here in .NET 6 here in the new course is good enough to get you a job. But you can also take that knowledge and build a recipe app or build some other type of domain off of it. You can definitely build a blog. We think a blog has high utility. So imagine that you have a blog, Kevin, and you're demoing your blog, and your blog is full of articles that you wrote. So you're demoing, oh, I built this in .NET and C#. At the same time, you're talking about dependency injection in a blog article as you're demoing it. And you're like, did you write the article? Yeah, I did. And so, it's like, oh, by the way, I know about dependency injection. I know about like SQL statements, and I wrote all these articles in here.
Some people get confused on those articles. They often get like, yes. Whoa, I'm not good enough to write an article. Nah, you are. If you understand something enough, it's good enough to write it. You don't have to like, you're not talking about like cutting edge quantum computing in there, and like, you know, you're not dropping an hypothesis on somebody. You're talking about like, how do I arrange something so that it like, you know, using Bootstrap.
How do I center a div?
Like, how do I center a div? Exactly. It can be something. Yeah, it can be something trivial. As long as you understand it enough, teaching it through a blog post is definitely okay and the way to go. It doesn't have to be world changing.
Right. Exactly, and I've seen guys get hired off the blog too. I've seen a guy where the dev manager looked at his tech lead and said, "See, not only does he code, he writes about code." And apparently,
that's a dig.
It was like he may have asked him, said, "Can you write some technical articles and put them on our website?" And he said, "Sure, boss. Let me get around to that."
And he doesn't.
You know. And then this guy walks in with a whole blog, and he's like, "See." This is what I'm talking about. And that guy got hired at that role. So like, those are the types of things that where a demo can absolutely move the needle, but you've got to build a business focused project to it. So blog is a great one. A Contact Pro is one we build. A bug tracker obviously is really good for various reasons. All 3 of those projects can really move the needle for you. A recipe book is great. I think that's great. Anything with a workflow process that goes from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 is great. E-commerce is obviously great. You can build an e-commerce site. You can build a shopping cart, those kind of things. All of those are great apps that you can build.
Okay, let's do
some questions.
Let's do some questions here at the end. Simple Bright says, hey, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. As you're a .NET developer for 3 years, the question is, I'm interested in learning front end. What do you prefer, Angular or React?
Open up Visual Studio, and they've got templates for both in there. They've got React.js and they've got Angular. I think React is probably more downloaded if you look at just pure downloads than Angular is. They both have reach in the industry. They both have reach. So I would build it. This is what I would do. I would definitely lean heavily into Web API. Since you're a .NET developer, 3 years of experience, you don't sleep on that. You need to know how Web API works, how to authenticate it, how to make that work, and then putting a front end on it. Could be React or it could be Angular, either one. And then soon to be, hopefully, that'll Blazor will come around and compete more heavily with those 2 frameworks.
Which is actually a follow-up question. Are you teaching Blazor or ASP, not MVC? We were literally talking about this yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, currently right now we are still teaching MVC. We're waiting for Blazor to be more adopted in the industry before we say, hey, this is what you need to know to get it learning. But Blazor is coming to our self-paced course. So in person right now, we only have 12 weeks. We don't have 10 years or 3 years. We have 12 weeks. We're teaching MVC at this point. So that is controllers, that's back end. We also have web APIs that we teach in person, and that's the back end. Blazor is coming to the self-paced course soon, and we'll build a whole Blazor track on that. So from simple to more complex. So that's coming soon.
Yep. Raymond says, looks like your QR code is broken. I just tested it and it worked for me. So it works on my machine. I don't know what's going on. I just
let's see.
Try it. You try it. Everybody wants to try it. Tell me if it doesn't work. It worked for me. Yeah, I'm not lying. I will prove it. I did click it and it took me to the price page. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If you haven't done it though, and you can, I promise it.
Let me see if I can do it. I'm gonna do it right now, Kevin. I'm gonna scan. I have a confidence monitor here.
Go for it. If it works.
But
anyway, while Bobby's doing that, you can go up here. The link is also down below in the description, Raymond, as well. So you can go down there and click it, I believe. I can't see the description.
There you go.
It should be down there. There you go. So it does work. So it should be down there too in case the QR code for some reason doesn't work on your phone or whatever. I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, there's a link down there. We're just joshing around.
That's still running. We're still about like 10K away from that. So once we hit,
it's going to pick up soon.
We're gonna give it away. That's still ongoing. We'll be on an M3 MacBook Air by the time we hit it. I don't want that to be the case. I want to give away an M2 to please people.
Yeah.
Go subscribe if you haven't already. We would very, very much appreciate it. And go into the giveaway for the chance to win all that cool stuff.
We get a YouTube plaque when we do that, and I saw some YouTubers saying, of course these are the ones with 1 million+ channels. Like, putting the YouTube plaque is vanity. I'd never do that. I'm gonna put that on the wall when we get it. So just to let you know.
Yeah, I'm totally.
I think it's a lot of hard work. We're proud.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine.
It's kind of cool.
No problem with that at all. So Alex says, so focus more on enterprise projects as a portfolio.
So your portfolio is about you. Your project section in your portfolio needs to have those enterprise grade projects in there, 100%. You still build a portfolio. Then you put your enterprise projects on the portfolio. Portfolio has about you. It tells about your skill sets, then your projects, and maybe a place to contact you. So portfolio is a different artifact that you need. So
okay,
hope that helps, Alex.
Yeah, so the QR code is working. Some other people are saying the same thing too. So
cool.
This is funny. Please don't do that. You'll get us banned somehow. But I do like the sentiment. I like the sentiment, but please don't. Let's see.
The bot counts.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, we're followed by a bunch of bots.
Yeah.
Brandon says, I wonder where you get the GitHub shirt. The link's in the description below. You can. It is a Code of Foundry Git committed shirt. You can go down there.
It's a Kevin Doyle original, man. Come on now. You got to get that KD original.
I went to California last week and I wore mine out there. California. We went to the cliffs at La Jolla there, and I was on the cliffs with my my cool shirt. So yeah. It's been around the world. But yes, you can.
Shop.codefoundry.
Yep, shop.codefoundry.com, and it is listed right there. Let's see what else. Oh, let's talk about this real quick. This is interesting. So the problem is that all people are building standard projects, blogs, calendars, etc. Regular portfolios don't make a difference with today's competition on software jobs.
If you're interviewing in America, I'm telling you right now they do. I promise you they do. It seems like they don't.
It seems like everybody has one. Everybody doesn't.
and I can't pronounce the first name, but
Abdurraham, I'm guessing.
Abdurraham. Okay, so don't take this the wrong way. Don't take my passion the wrong way with this. All right, so I'm not complaining about what you're saying. I do think that is a common thing that is told on tech Twitter and whatever. And I do think there are people out there that say, I'm a hiring manager. I'm telling you it doesn't work, when they're actually not hiring managers. They don't want you to put in this effort to do it. So if blog, calendar, and standard projects don't work, what does? If you think that I have to build something special that no one knows about in a domain that no one understands, and you think that's going to move the needle because it is truly unique, that I'm telling you that's not the right way to go. The competition is your ability to talk about this project. It's not, you have to build it, then you have to talk about it, and then you have to demo it. So if you demo and talk about it, your project doesn't have to be unique. It just has to be professional, do professional things, solve a business problem, and it absolutely will work. Blogs will work, man. I'm telling you, it'll work. I've seen it. I see it every single day. And so when we give our advice out, it's based on my real world experience. Like, these are the things the students are facing. The ones that demo win, the ones that don't. So it does help. Now, you also going to have to sometimes do a coding challenge. You're going to have to code something up. They ask you to do it. You're going to have to do that too. You may be asked a leak code question. That's for sure. That may happen. But when you get down to that fourth interview, and it's like you've already done all those other things, and they're trying to decide between you and 3 other guys, and you have a portfolio of projects and you're demoing that thing, I'm telling you, it moves the needle. Like, it does. And that chance will come for you to be able to do it. Now, this is in the US market. I'm not an expert in the European market or, the Southeast Asia market. So maybe it's different, but I would think that we're all humans. So therefore we have similar mindsets. Like, when we see something working and it's cool and it's like that instinctively moves the needle inside of us. Like, that's why people show you something when they're selling you something. You can't buy a car sight unseen. You got to go drive it. You got to go look at it. I don't care if it is a Tesla. You want to put your hands on it. Tesla may be the only car that you can just order and not drive it, and it's going to be good.
Hold on. Any electrical vehicle at the moment, you can't buy. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
so, Yeah, but like in general, you want to put your hands on it. You want to see it operate. You want to see where the knob of the radio is. Where's the steering wheel? How does it behave? All of those things are important to you. And then if you're demoing software of something they immediately know, you don't have to educate them on the domain of the thing you're trying to build. You don't have to educate them. You just basically show them the code of what you did, and then they understand it. And you can have a conversation about that. So when both parties are knowledgeable about the same subject, they can have really in-depth conversations. So if, for example, I use this in a sports analogy. So here, I like the Chicago Cubs. If I watch 50 Chicago Cubs games a year, and then I walk down the street and see another Cubs fan that does the same thing, we can talk in depth about the Cubs. That could be same thing about football around the world. Your club team. If you met someone else that like follows the same team you do, you can have a conversation, reminisce about certain games. You can say that guy sucks, or he's amazing, or that was a terrible call last night. All these things happen because you both have a knowledge of it. And I'm telling you, man, you bring a bug tracker to the table, both parties are talking about the same thing. They both have knowledge about a bug tracker. And now you just need to demo your particular version of it, your knowledge about it, talk about it. And you're going to win more interviews than you lose.
I was going to say you could talk about how the Raiders threw away a lead at the weekend, but I thought that was too soon.
They did, man. They did. We can talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
I thought that was too soon to talk about. I got to give that a couple of weeks to sit.
Yeah, but still, I need next week to happen, so hopefully we can win a game this year.
Exactly. Andy says, for real, I'm graduating from a state school and maybe 1 out of 20 of my peers have a portfolio. We're talking about just having a portfolio, period, to start off with, let alone what apps are on it.
And even projects. Yeah, just with your picture on it and say, here's where I live.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so in about an hour, actually a little less than an hour now, we're going to be on Discord, chatting with you guys. We can talk
more about this on Discord if you like, but anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, anything you want to talk about. We'll probably jump in with talking more about this actually, and then we'll go from there. So if you're on Discord, jump over there, and we'll be there in about an hour or so, and you guys can actually chat to us too versus just text, which is kind of nice. It's always nice to have a little bit of an interaction with everybody there. That's awesome. So jump over there. Links in the description below if you're not already there. Takes you a minute to jump in. Maybe it's less than that, seconds. You don't have to create an account or anything. Well, you have to.
So after the show, on Discord. So.
Yeah, the after the show on Discord. So we'll be doing more of those probably over the next few weeks too, because we may not be here on Thursday, so we may do that instead. Because it's voice only, we can do it from anywhere. We don't have to rely on having a studio or whatever. So.
Right.
So yeah, anybody wants to come over there, we'll see you there in about an hour.
Anyway, I hope this helps build some projects. But whatever you do, just keep coding, keep pursuing your dreams, and if you can build stuff and show it, you'll get a job. So good luck with that. See you next time. See you next week.
Or we'll catch you over on Discord in a bit.
Discord in a minute. Yeah.
We'll see you later. Bye.